only each other, but also myself. Eric Beattie, the head baseball coach of Strawberry Crest, and Eric Luksis for Sickles. What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
Good afternoon, Jay. Good afternoon, E.
Gentlemen, Jay, thanks for having us. E, it's good seeing you, bud. Jay, it's good seeing you too, as always.
Yes, sir. Eric and Eric, they're crushing it as always. It's funny. Like I put like in the tweet and everything that we were going to preview the Saladino tournament. For some reason, I don't know why, even though it's in like a couple of weeks. But you guys play each other tomorrow. I know that's originally the reason why I wanted to have you guys on. So we'll talk Saladino in a little bit as well. But Beattie, we'll start with you. How's the start of the season been for you guys over there at Crest?
It's been a little up and down. We've been really good one game a week, and the other game a week we've had to slug our way through some close games. We've got a really good 1 and 2. We've got some good depth in our pitching staff, but they're still finding their way through. So we're working through that. But love my team. Love going to work with them every day.
What about you, Luxie?
Kind of the same thing. It's been a little bit up and down. We've had some good days. We've had some days that haven't been so good, but, we're trying to figure some things out. It seems like every day, it seems like we're doing something good and we're also doing something bad. So hopefully, we kind of get rolling here and, towards the end of the season can hopefully make a run at this thing.
Luxie, I want to ask you first because I've had Cole Russo on, I've had JD on, I've had Joe Urso, and obviously we know how important University of Tampa baseball is here in the Tampa Bay area. Just talk about, just the love that I think the whole city has for UT and just baseball in general from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Eric can probably, attest to this as well, obviously, but it's a family environment, and that's the biggest word that you hear with the University of Tampa baseball is family. And the way that those guys treated me as a player and, the relationships I still have with those guys, we're still in touch with those coaches, on a weekly basis. And, you still see them and, they take you out to dinner. And, I was able to spend a lot of time with them here in the last few weeks. And, a lot of why I'm where I'm at is because of those guys and obviously Eric as well. And, I can't say enough good things about them. It's obviously the best D2 school in the country, but, I'm going to take it a step farther and say it's one of the best programs in the country amongst all divisions. Joe and Sam have really set the table of knowing how to do things the right way. And it's, they've got standards in place and those standards seem to be upheld year after year, which is really embrace that culture over there at Tampa.
Yeah, Eric Beattie, I think that's, you and I spoke a lot like last summer about the team and just everything with Joe and wondering like where his future is going to be. And, he's staying there. He was rumored to go to USF, but he stays with the Spartans. But I think the secret sauce when you look at that team really is kind of that family dynamic. And, we've been there, right, with your wife and your kids. And when you look around, there's so many different alumni and it's not just the players, it's their wives and girlfriends and children. I mean, it really is something special there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've just and I think it stems from Larry Marfis. And you walk around a college campus, and I was there 20 years ago now, and there's still 8 or 10 coaches that are still there from when I was there 20 years ago, and that's
Right.
unheard of at the college level. So obviously, Joe and Sam are awesome. A lot of great people there, but I think a lot of it stems from Larry and his leadership.
No doubt about it. Beattie, talk about your relationship with Luxie and just how you guys met and just, working with him and coaching against him over the years.
Yeah, Sammy called me, it was probably 10 years ago now, and asked me if I needed a pitching coach. Said he had a guy that he thought would be pretty good. So I brought Luxus in, and we talked a bunch of times, and I felt like he was a teammate and a brother and a good friend, and
So
seemed
you
like a
guys
great
didn't know
fit.
each other before then?
We didn't know each other. No, Sammy called me
Wow.
random and
Wow. Didn't
just
know
kind
that.
of told me about him. So we've grown to be great friends and great competitors and great opponents as we get to play that out tomorrow.
I know. I mean, Luxie, what is that like to be able to, you kind of learn the landscape? I mean, because I remember coaching against Beattie myself years ago when I was at Freedom, and he did the Phantom IO without a ball one time during our senior night. And that's when Strawberry Crest, the program was nowhere near where it is today. But just talk about like your growth as a coach and kind of what you learned from Beattie and how you were able to kind of take that and make it your own there at Sickles against a program that's been around a while.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to kind of have good people in my corner. It started with Joe and Sam, like we just said, and I reached out to those guys as soon as I was done playing. I'm like, hey, like I've watched you guys for years, and this is what I want to do with my career. Is I want to be a baseball coach, and they made that call for me, and I was able to kind of get in front of Eric, and we kind of hit it off from day one. And that was probably the best thing that happened to me was going to coach for Eric. I was there for 2 years and didn't really know what I was getting myself into at first. You're a young kid. You just graduate college and have never coached before. I know I love baseball. The X's and the O's. I felt pretty strong about that, but I didn't know how to lead a team. I didn't know how to structure certain things that it takes to be a head high school coach. And when you first get out of the gate, you just think, I'm going to coach baseball. Well, there's a lot more to it than just coaching baseball. There's a
Right.
lot of hats that you have to wear. And, I was able to kind of just from afar for 2 years, just kind of watch how Eric did things. And a lot of what he did came from Tampa, but then he makes his own special twist on certain things. And, I saw a lot of things that were to be desired. And, I knew down the road, at some point, if I was going to get a head job, I was going to, beg, borrow, and steal a lot of the things that we did together at Strawberry Crest. And, I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that over here at Sickles. And, if I were to, take a bet on what their practice is going to look like today, it's going to be pretty similar to what we're going to be doing today. And our structure tomorrow morning is going to be pretty much the same, and might have to change up a couple things because I think we think very similarly in certain areas. And, I think that's part of the reason that we hit it off. But, that 2 years at Strawberry Crest, was a big blessing for me.
Luxie, what would you say if people say, describe your team in 3 to 4 words every single year? Is it the same or is it different based on the group?
It changes year to year, but, there's certain standards that you have, and those standards have to be, upkept, and it's up to your leaders. We've been fortunate to have some good leaders, and, when your leaders are oftentimes your best players, it helps out a lot. But there's just certain things that we've instilled, within our program that we just hope are passed down. And, you have to keep guys accountable, but, you can, treat them like adults as much as you possibly can and kind of give them some ownership in the program. And, just talk about integrity. You talk about hard work, you put the program in place for them, and then it's ultimately up to them for them to, take the bull by the horns and kind of take it and run with it. And, there's boundaries and guidelines that these guys have to follow. And, my job's to just try to keep them in those lanes. And, really good things can happen when you give guys the autonomy to take control of their own careers and their own program.
Beattie, what do you think as far as how athletes have changed since you started coaching there at Strawberry Crest? Has it changed a lot? Has it changed a little? And if so, what have you changed being not just a coach, but also a leader of young men?
Yeah, I do think the general younger population has changed a little bit over the last 16 years since I've been coaching, but I'm a lot different too. I think there's areas that I'm way better in. I think there's areas I still need to get way better in. The times are different, so you can't just be who you were 3, 5, or 10 years ago. You got to adapt with every group that you have and the times that we're in right now.
Mhm. Eric Beattie, the another thing is that we're seeing, and I saw a picture last night, is Jim Macaluso. It's his last year at King, and you guys know that one of the big things about Tampa high school baseball, and we'll talk Saladino tournament in a bit, is kind of the names, right? When you're going back to Reed at Hillsborough and Macaluso and Cuesta and Permui, like how important have those figures been to high school baseball in the Tampa Bay area? And do you hope is that a goal of yours, Beattie, to be, when it is all said and done, Strawberry Crest being synonymous with Eric Beattie?
It it is a goal. It comes back to the impact that those guys have had on the game and the kids in our community. It's not really about their name and how great they are. It's about the generational impact that they've had on so many different players and a community, really. And this is the greatest game in the world. And anybody that comes from Tampa and has grown up in baseball is going to know some of those names. You got Crumley, you got Permui, you got Pop Cuesta, Macaluso, you got the Ursos. So, those are just, those names carry impact, and that's the special part.
Oh God, I didn't say Crumley. John is going to text me any second now. I know that's
I
coming. What
picked you
about?
up.
I
I'll
know.
pick you up. I
I
got you.
appreciate you. What about you, Luxy? Like as far as legacy goes, and obviously Sickles being a program that's been around longer than Strawberry Crest, but I mean, do you think about that type of thing? Do you look at it and like, hey, I want to be known as the guy that's had the most success at Sickles when it's all said and done?
It's funny. I've never really thought about those things. It was just kind of one step at a time. I linked on with Eric over there at Crest, and I didn't think that I was only going to be there 2 years. It just kind of shaped
Right.
out that way. And I've been at Sickles and didn't know if this was going to be a short-term thing, a long-term thing. It's just, I feel like I've been here, quite some time now. This is my 9th season, so the seasons just seem to kind of keep coming and going. So the longer I stay here, you invest a lot to be here. You spend a lot of time here. You try to build the facilities that you want, and then you finally get your program to where you want it to be. And it's fun to go out there every day. So as long as it's still fun to go out there and work with these guys every day, then I don't see why I would leave.
Yeah, it's a great point. And we've just seen so much talent, and we see it even more in a couple of weeks. And real quick shout out to our guy, Jarrett Guthrie at 813 Preps. I mean, they do such a great job, and I can't shout them out enough. 813preps.com. Nobody does more for high school sports in the Bay Area than our buddy, Jarrett Guthrie. So can't show him enough love. But the Saladino tournament coming up in a couple of weeks. Luxy, we'll start with you. Just what the tournament means to you guys, and how do you try to win that tournament knowing that it takes a lot? It takes a lot of arms. And of course, your goal is to win a state championship. But I mean, there's just something special about playing ball during that week.
Yeah, it's a week that we look forward to every year. We kind of, star that one on the calendar, and it's something that we look forward to. And for us, it's something that we've preached, for years now is, it gives the players a taste of college baseball, and it might be their first taste of what that actually feels like. Most of the players that we have, their goal is to move on and, play at that next level. And, it kind of gives them a taste of, hey, well, look, we got 3-4 games in a row. This is what a weekend series looks like. It's going to take a full rotation. It's going to take a full bullpen. It's going to take guys bouncing back. We're going to have sore bodies. We're going to have sore arms. Might have to catch 2 to 3 days in a row. And this is just what it's going to be like at that next level. And then, from a professional baseball perspective, we just get to wake up and play baseball.
Right.
It's all about baseball for that spring break. We don't have to worry about going to class. And so those are some of the things that we preach. And, ultimately, like, this is something that you want to win. Like, in my tenure here, we've been close twice. And it's one thing that we haven't done was win that Saladino championship, or at least that's something that I haven't done here. Back in 2001, 2002, Sickles won back-to-back. But since then, we haven't had one. So that's something that we strive to do every single year is we want to, be the team that's dogpiling on somebody else's field. But yeah, we look forward to it. I think more than ever this year, this tournament is going to give us a taste of what the postseason is going to look like. The whole postseason structure is different this year. You got to win 2 out of 3 in every single regional matchup, and you might have to play a doubleheader on one day and one game the next day, or if you and another coach agree, you could go 3 days in a row. So, I think the structure of playing a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is going to give us a taste of what that postseason is going to look like. So hopefully we can figure out a few things and make a run at this Saladino this year.
Beattie, what about you, man? What kind of preparation do you take as we get closer to the tournament, just in about 2.5, 3 weeks here?
Yeah, a lot of the same stuff. You just gotta, you gotta really figure out who those 3, 4, 5 guys are, and guys have to step up in order for you to make a real run at that. Guys that aren't typically on the field every single night in a 2-game week, or a 3-game week. A lot of those games, those close games down the stretch of the Saladino, come down to your depth. So keeping those guys in the game and motivated is a big deal going into that Saladino.
All right, we'll have a little rapid fire here. Beattie, who is the best, and it doesn't have to be your team, but since you started coaching, and I'll ask you guys both the same question, who's the best pitcher that you've either coached or faced during your time? And I'm just talking about during your time at Strawberry Crest and Sickles. Who's the best pitcher that you've seen while you were at Crest?
Oh gosh. Oh man, there's been some good ones. I think the guy with the most devastating stuff, I'd have to say Tyler Danish.
Yeah, insane, right? I mean, that guy.
It's the sinker, the slider, the velo, the strikes, the in and out, everything was there.
I remember coaching third base, and he was in the field, and he picked up a ball on the ground, flat-footed, and threw the ball like 90 across the diamond. And you barely saw it, but you heard that damn thing. It was like, oh man, that's just a different type of arm.
It
What
was
about you,
special.
Luxy?
I got a couple. I got a couple here. One that we've played against, and should me and Eric were both fortunate enough to coach this kid in summer ball, and he's going to be probably a top 5, top 10 overall pick. Jamie Arnold. He's a good one. But I'm going to keep this one in house. We've had two superstar arms. We've had a lot of good guys come through, but two guys probably stand out. We have the fun argument all the time. Which guy was better, which guy was a better hitter, which guy was a better pitcher. But I'm not going to pick one because I love both of them. But Dylan Eskew and Caden McDonald.
Yeah, that wasn't. I knew that was coming from especially Eskew. All right, what about swinging? And we'll go your team. Who's the best hitter that you faced as being the head coach there? We'll start with you, Luxy, at Sickles.
Best hitter we faced. Oh man, jeez, there's been a lot of good ones. Kyle Tucker and Connor Scott were two really good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm taking any credit for Connor Scott, but he was on my team at 11 years old, boys. What about you, Beattie?
I would have to go either Keon Barnum or Kyle Tucker. Either of those two.
So
Kyle Tucker hit a ball. We threw a beautiful outside pitch, and he drove it down the left field line, and then he hit a home run down the right field line in the same game. So true, like line to line approach and power, and he had the speed to go with it. He was really good. And then Keon Barnum from King was unbelievable too.
It's funny that you guys bring them up because I saw Kyle at Saladino one year, and they weren't throwing strikes. It was at Brandon High School, so many scouts there, and they threw a ball that was like 2 feet off, like 2 inches from the ground, and he golfs one on a line, and the center fielder had his back against the fence, and he just caught it like this, and the ball never got more than like 8 feet off the ground. It was insane. Yeah. And then Keon Barnum, I actually saw him play last summer. He's still playing independent ball. He was playing against the Long Island Ducks in my hometown, and Tampa guy, an unbelievable player. And when I was at Freedom, we played him in the summer one time. Keon went 5 for 5. He had 2 home runs, 2 ground rule doubles, and a ball that hit the top of the fence and came back. I've never. And then we intentionally walked him, I think, 4 times the next game. And his dad was like, "What are you walking him?" I was like, "He just went 5 for 5 yesterday, bro." Like, you want to talk about an imposing figure? That was one of those guys, wasn't it, Beattie?
Yeah, no doubt. But Arjun Namal over all of them. I'm going to break the rules a little bit. Dude's going to be a big-time major league player.
When you look at kind of the type of players that you've coached over the years, what would you say is the biggest kind of fundamental strength or fundamental flaw? Beattie, we'll start with you, from these players as they come up, because they're playing so much baseball now, travel ball, little league, not as much. But what do you say when you get these players? They may be talented, but just the things that they really have to work on to not only just be a really good player in high school, but also beyond.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think perfecting the simplest things in the game are the most important thing for these kids to get really good at. They all want this epic information and this epic new way of doing stuff, but when it comes down to it, really, to be a great infielder, you got to secure the baseball and get it to first base or get it to second where it needs to go. And I think just embracing the boring is the best thing that these kids could really focus on getting great at.
I love that. Luxy, tomorrow you guys take face off, and when you walk up 10 o'clock tomorrow at your place, when Eric gets off the bus, what is that initial conversation like? Like, you're there, you're prepared? Because I always, when I went against my teams, my best friends growing up, baseball, hockey, whatever, there's always like when you first see him, there's like a little smirk or something like that. And then it gets like, all right, now we're settled into the game. How does that like initial conversation go when you're like, you're getting ready? Because as much as you want to be all professional, like this is still one of your good buddies. How is that like? What is that going to be like tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It starts with smiles. Actually, ironically enough, this already started last night. We had a home game against Leonard. We get off to, we played well last night and get to the 5th or 6th inning, and I feel something hit my head, and I turn around and, it's Eric throwing his little hot dog wrapper at me because he's out scouting our game last night. So, it kind of already started last night, but, it's all love, it's all out of friendship. But once that umpire says play ball, like there's it changes, he's a few times he's been unhappy with what I was doing or things that he thought that I was doing where he's yelled at me before across the field. And it's all fun and games until the umpire says play ball, and then we got about 2 to 3 hours that we're going to try to go after it. We both really want to win this game. It's a prideful thing. It feels personal, and I still want to prove to him that I can beat him. Being that I was his assistant coach, at high school, and his assistant coach as well, and the Cape Cod Baseball League, and I still want to prove to him that I can beat him. So that's something that drives me, and our players kind of get into it too because they know the history and the backgrounds as well.
What's the all-time record, Beattie? Do we know?
I don't know. I don't.
I do.
We're
what is it, Luxie? What is it?
We're 0-0 today, and we're going to be 0-0 tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So every day is a new day.
What spoken like a man that may not like what the ledger looks like. What about you? So what about you, Beattie? Getting off the bus tomorrow, like Luxie.
I'm going to grade his baselines. I'm going to grade his baselines. Make sure they're perfect.
You're going to go down.
Not, I'm going to let him know about it. Then I'm going to get ready to kick his butt.
A ruler and a protractor. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are two of the not just greatest coaches here in the Tampa Bay area, but greatest leaders of young men. I'm so happy to know you both and to call you friends. And, our relationships supersede the baseball field. But just to know, as somebody that was in coaching for a long time before I ever got into radio, how important it is to be able to have the right people leading these young men, not just on the field, but also off the field in school, and how they treat, women, and how they treat families, and how they treat school, and how they are. Thank you on behalf of everybody in the Tampa Bay area, because you make us all proud. And it's fun. It's fun to see you guys do what you do. And there's no, secret sauce and secret recipe to why you guys are both successful on pretty much the opposite sides of Tampa Bay, because your morals and your values and your ethics are the same. And it's no surprise that you guys coach together. It's no surprise that I think the world works in mysterious ways. And it's kind of weird to know that, as long as I've known both of you, that you didn't know each other before Sammy made that connection. But I truly think that there's forces in this world that bring people of like-mindedness together. And the world is a better place, and Tampa is a better baseball city because you guys do what you do. So Eric Luksis, Sickles, Eric Beattie, Strawberry Crest, best of luck. I wish I could be there. I'm working for USF tomorrow. I was pissed. I was like, yes, I can work for USF tomorrow. But it's at Sickles, right? So wait, the game for USF. You know what? I might be there. I might be there for a little while because I don't live too far from Sickles. You know what? I'll be there. I'll be there for a little while tomorrow before I go to USF. I won't miss that, even if it's just for a couple innings. But best of luck tomorrow, fellas. Thank you so much for everything, and best of luck the rest of the season. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having us.